It's almost like the perfect storm. And the reason I'm coming to you live today is this past week, as I was leading a number of business leaders and entrepreneurs through some leadership training in light of the crisis, one of them brought up that I should really share a few of the perspectives that I use as a leader during this time of crisis. So that's what I'm doing here today. And there's really three perspectives that I use to guide my thought process as I think about what's happening, the impact it has on my businesses, my people, my family, really everybody else. So I want to share those with you very quickly here. Number one is the perspective of everything worthwhile is uphill. Think about that. At the top of the hill are our dreams, our hopes, the things that we want to achieve, our desires. And we know we need to climb to the top of the hill to get it. Even when things aren't so bad, or in times of crisis like we are now, even in average times, everything worthwhile is uphill. It's something I've lived by for my entire life. But during times of crisis, we have to understand that the hill is just much higher. But we're not actually given an overcoming life. We're given life as we overcome. Look, I'm not entitled, I don't believe, to an overcomer's life, but I'm entitled to having a life in which I can choose to be an overcomer. I know it's not easy, but if we have the mindset that it is possible, it becomes more possible. Here's the thing. We often have uphill hopes and downhill habits. We want to do better. We want to achieve more. We want to make more money. We want to have better relationships, but the habits don't support it. We have uphill hopes and downhill habits. Look, it took a great amount of time, focus, and energy and commitment to changing my own leadership approach over the years. It was all uphill. In fact, it took me 15 years to learn what I was doing wrong, and then it took me another 5 just to learn what I didn't know. The reality of it is, it's all a process. And we have to realize that crisis never leaves us the same. It either moves us forward or pushes us backward. It's either upwards or down. Like, life after this crisis will never return to the quote-unquote normal that you and I know. Think about after 9/11. We didn't go back to normal, right? Look at our security lines. Look at what we have to go through now, and it continues to evolve and change. Normal is gone given COVID and everything going on, and there's going to need to be massive change. And we need to make that change positive. Look, you can control your own personal decisions. And I hope that everyone makes the decision to take this opportunity and develop and grow themselves even in a time of crisis. The reality is there is no finish line in life, but there's always room for growth. That's perspective number one. Perspective number two, there's always an answer. Look, we'll find a way out of what we are going through. We'll find a way through. The reality is successful people know this. Unsuccessful people do not. Successful people know this. There's always an answer. There is always a way out. Look, it might be hard. It might take a long time, but we will find a way out. The greatest gap between unsuccessful and successful people is this thinking gap, this thing in their head. I'm not talking about intellect. I'm not talking about IQ. I'm saying they think differently. Successful people know there is always an answer, and unsuccessful people believe there isn't. Now it's actually pretty simple. Not easy, but it's simple. If you think there's an answer, you'll become a victor. If you think there's no answer, you make yourself a victim. You know, it reminds me of when my father came over here on the boat from Poland, from what I've heard. He had less than 30 or 40 bucks in his pocket when he arrived in the 60s. Think about what was going on in the 60s. He came with the mindset, though, that he would be of value to others. Everyone in the area was facing the same crisis, race riots, unemployment, but my father thought differently. When people got a job, there was no guarantee at the time it would be long term. So he made himself invaluable. He worked longer, harder, and supported the owner of the factory that he actually worked for personally, right? On fixing treadmills and stuff. He knew there was an answer to the problems. Perspective number 2. Perspective number 3, we need to allow adversity to help us discover who we really are. Like sometimes we need to be moved to find our niche. I started off, as a matter of fact, as an architect. I realized that I wasn't really good at it, and sitting behind a drawing board was driving me crazy. There was people much better at it than I was. Now, I had 2 options at that particular time. I could have wallowed in the fact that I spent all this money on being an architect, all these dollars, all these hours, or that's when the lights came on for me, right? Through my failure in architecture, I began focusing on the strengths I had and began solving other people's problems through a sales job. And later I got into this business of people and recruiting. I had to be bad at something to move me to get good at something else. That's what this crisis can do for you. Let you move to a higher ground. That's principle number 3. Now, I know some of these may sound too good to be true, but they're 3 perspectives. If you can get your arms around them, and you can, because you can be the victor, especially as a leader. This is so critical. I'll be sharing a few more perspectives that I have in future videos, but it was so powerful to this group of 12, group 11 really, I'm the 12th, that they asked me to share it with you. And I hope that it gives you a different perspective. We don't have to be a victim even in terms of crisis. We can change our perspective and begin